today, throughout Pride Month as well, we're celebrating the incredible achievements of members of the LGBTQ+ community.
In the 1980s, former Royal Navy officer Ed Hall lost his job, his home and his university place, all because of his sexual orientation.
And from then on, Ed tirelessly campaigned against the ban on being gay in the forces and was instrumental in the ban being lifted. We're speaking to Ed in just a moment, but first, just have a listen to his story. When Ed Hall joined the Navy in 1986, there was a ban on being gay.
The admission of homosexuals to the armed forces would undermine the cohesion, the morale and the fighting power of our armed forces.
So when he discovered his own sexuality, he kept it a secret, like many others.
The moment you told somebody, that was not just the end of career, that led to all sorts of terrible actions taken against you.
After 2 years, unable to carry on living a double life, Ed came out. He was arrested, interrogated and sacked. Determined that others wouldn't go through what he did, he started a campaign to have the ban lifted.
The specific discharges for being gay in the last 4 years, a number of 300 or so now.
Ed challenged the ban in British courts, who upheld it. But in 1999, the European Court of Human Rights ruled the ban illegal.
Without him, this would not have happened at that time.
And Ed Hall joins us now. You know, Ed, firstly, I'm going to say thank you, and not just on behalf of me, but the nation. You and others who wanted to serve and sacrifice for each and every one of us to keep us free. That's what you wanted to do. Whose lives were destroyed just because of who you are. That feels like a long time ago, right? It's not until the year 2000 that this changed.
So it was 94 that the campaign really started in earnest, and I mean, that film was very moving. But you know, there were a group of people who gradually came together and gradually fought because they felt that the damage that they'd suffered was too much to bear and couldn't possibly be legal. You know, and I think people don't realise how recent this was. You know, there were people in prison for being gay in the 1990s. Right. When it was completely legal in civilian life, but in the armed forces, if you were caught, that was the sort of thing that you risked.
Talk about the personal moment for you, the moment when you lost your job, your university place, you lost your home, lost everything. Did you think, oh, well, I should have known? I mean, obviously it was devastating. Did you know, could you even believe it was happening at the time?
It took, you know, it still hurts talking about it. And one of the reasons that an organisation, you know, there's a charity fighting with pride, one of the reasons that's so important is that for us to talk about it is really difficult, is really painful. But, you know, specifically for, in my case, you know, I didn't know where to go or what to do. You know, people join the forces when they're very young. Yeah. You know, often the coming out bit of your life can happen after you've joined the forces. And at the time, you were then trapped. So for me, I didn't know where to go. I was chucked out on the street at 22. I didn't know where to go, what to live. You know, I spent, you know, a couple of nights sleeping in a rolled-up piece of office carpet just off St Martin's Lane in London. And that's as a, you know, 22-year-old who days earlier was in the Navy. You know, so, you know, talking about that is very difficult.
Ripped to your core because you're in the Navy, because you believe in that life and that service.
Well, what happened to me was horrendous, but that's the strange thing about this community of LGBTQ+ veterans, is that they want to be veterans, they want to be part of that community, because there are lots of us who had much longer and, you know, more fantastic careers than I did, who were also chucked out in the same way that I was, and some under much worse circumstances. And, you know, finding a way for those people to feel that they're part of the veterans community again, that's a vital part of what has to happen to make this right.
And part of that is righting the wrongs of the past. You lose your job dishonourably discharged. Yeah. I mean, it is extraordinary to many people listening now that happened. What's the fight? You know, you're carrying on. What are we asking? What are you asking people to do?
So we've made huge steps forward. So the last government put an independent review in place, which Lord Etherton reported on last year. That meant that the Prime Minister stood up in the House of Commons and apologised. But it's not finished yet. You know, we're still waiting to get the financial compensation sorted for people who were sacked, and we're still waiting for the process to end. So, you know, huge steps were made. The elections obviously caused a bit of a break in that process, but I hope by next year, by the 25th anniversary, we will finally have got this sorted out.
Right. You know, Ed, there'll be some people at home, you know, I maybe know some of them, that listening to what Nicholas Soames had to say might be quietly nodding inside and say, you know, it's bad for morale for gay men and women to serve in the army. What's your message to people who might think like that? How do you hear them? How do you make your point? And also, to perhaps closeted people in the army, what do you have to say to them? So there are now people leaving the armed forces after successful careers who served their whole career after the ban was lifted. So there are now LGBTQ plus people who have served in our armed forces and served with distinction in all branches, you know, from commanding warships to, you know, fighting for us on the front line in the various conflicts that we've had. So the proof is not now opinion, the proof is in the pudding, the proof is in the service, the distinguished service of those people. So, you know, the argument that the armed forces would fall apart if there were lesbian and gay people in it has been proved wrong. How proud are you? Sorry.
Just before we come on to the future, which I'm also really keen to talk about, you know, just to give a government spokesman comment, and I'd be interested to know what you think about this. The MOD said, we deeply regret the treatment of LGBT serving personnel between 1967 and 2000, which they say was wholly unacceptable, doesn't reflect today's armed forces, and thank those that have come forward to share their stories. They say they've already implemented more than half of the recommendations of the LGBT Veterans Review and are working at pace to deliver those that remain. What is the fight left to do?
So the MOD has been great, and there's nothing I disagree with in that statement at all, but we still have a political decision to make. So we still need to have a debate in Parliament about what took place, and the government, which will have to be, of course, a new government now, will need to agree what that number is to compensate people. You know, just think about someone sent to prison in 1992 for being gay, forced to clean a toilet with the toothbrush and then use their toothbrush. So people that think the ban was justifiable don't really, I think, understand what was done in its name, and that's an example.
Well, Ed Hall, I started this interview alongside Kate, thanking you for your courage and for reminding the nation that if you want to serve in the armed forces, what matters is courage, commitment, patriotism and love of a country, and your sexuality should be as indifferent and as irrelevant as the size of your big toe. And you've done that through your courage. So thanks very much for being on today and sharing it with us.
Thank you both. Thank you
very much. Amazing to talk to you.